I used to do lots of things.
I used to do things and I'd say things and Jesus I was evil. Take things and break things and Jesus I was evil. I never shook baby.
Okay.
It's
All
weird.
right.
Weird seeing you in these here parts on a Tuesday.
Yeah. I mean, I look great no matter what, and I sound great no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
The
The Tuesday light really brings out your eyes, Joe.
Well, you know what's funny? Like right now, it just rained a little bit, so like it's actually really overcast in LA right now. So
Really?
I think
Are you? How are you making out? How are you guys making out there? A little rain and overcast.
Personally, I'm okay, but I think there are a lot of Angelinos who are probably getting into car accidents, who are probably, like converting to Jesus right now. But I'm doing okay.
Okay. Well, I'll keep you guys in my prayers out there. You had a little overcast and some rain.
Yeah. So keep us in your thoughts and your prayers.
Yeah, I say that like you guys are a bunch of pussies. Meanwhile, you have like earthquakes and your whole city catches on fire every few years.
They're just getting shot and fingered on a regular basis.
That too. I mean, yeah, that's regardless of the weather.
So real quick before we dive into this, I might have brought this up on a previous episode at some point, but so when I was still working in the Silicon Valley startup scene, and I was gradually starting to like follow my dreams of becoming a filmmaker and all that crap, I was going to a lot of film festivals, and one of the film festivals that I went to was the Carmel International Film Festival, which, as far as I understand, is now defunct. But I went in, I don't remember the exact year. I think it was, so it had to have been before 2018, so probably 2016 or 2017. And the year that the last year that I went, so many short films had a Me Too theme. And it was really so back
probably 2017 then.
Yeah. It was definitely 20 because I quit my job in fall of 2018. So and I think the Carmel Film Festival is in fall of is in the fall of the year. But anyway, so most likely 2017. And I remember even back when I was more progressive, seeing so many of these films, I just remember going, okay, I get it. Us men, we're really bad. Like, I get it. And those films were the ones that were getting a lot of the most attention.
Right.
So watching this, it was a nice refresher. So this, it was refreshing compared to that crap, at least.
Sure. And again, this is just my take on it. So to cut to it, what? Oh, I thought you just popped like a bottle of whiskey or something.
No, this is water.
That's such a loud pop. To get right to it, this episode we're just going to talk about one movie, and it came out last year, so this isn't like a new release, but it's also not like a shed selection older movie that we think is a diamond in the rough. I looked up, I haven't written my review for it yet. I looked up the reviews, and it has like a good amount of reviews, even though it's a indie movie, like low budget, or I guess indie. I don't even know what that term means anymore. But like, this was just a surprise to me, basically. This is something I knew had been out. And why Joe was just talking about Me Too stuff is because I texted him after finishing this movie and being like, dude, this is an anti-Me Too movie. But that being said, like, I don't see that across the board in reviews. Like, I don't see people saying that. In fact, on Rotten Tomatoes, which I still check, even though I always like to check the scores there as an idea, just where I land, because I always did. But even though mine's on Letterboxd now, by the way, you can follow me on Letterboxd. It has like a 96 or something from critics. So if this was like an in-your-face anti-Me Too movie, I don't think it would have that simply due to the politics. But after I watched it, and we literally have not discussed, I asked Joe right before we recorded, did you watch the movie? That's it. So it's not like we've discussed it really beforehand outside of a couple texts when I watched it over the weekend. That's what I got. I got like this is so different than what was coming out like 4 years earlier. This came out, I mean, this came out to us normal plebes in August of last year, but this wasn't a film festival in 2023. I forget which one. So again, this isn't even like that far removed from the era that Joe was just referring to, and especially not far removed from the 2020 2021 Great Awakening era.
It managed, I think, to kind of tip its hat to that whole movement without being heavy-handed, without being, because I mean, like, it's like, it was great
tip its
seeing.
hat to what movement?
I mean, like, if the Me Too movement hadn't have happened, I don't know if this movie would have been made. Like, I'm pretty sure this movie was sort of like.
I didn't. I don't know. I don't know if it was that conscious. Maybe.
I mean, well, here's the thing. I mean, it's like, like there are a few terms nowadays that are just so radioactive to me. So one of them is consent, and this movie brings it up a few times where I'm just sort of like, okay,
we'll cut that.
No. I mean, in the sense where it's like it's so loaded, where you're just like,
yeah.
oh, I know. So if somebody says problematic, even if they're using it in a non-woke way,
yes, I get
like,
that.
Okay, I think I know exactly what you're saying now.
It's funny you say that. I actually didn't click on. I like whenever I finish a book or a movie, not everything, but a lot of stuff that I find interesting, especially good, I'll go watch YouTube videos about it. And I didn't click on one that was like Strange Darling. Is it good and problematic? Like I didn't listen to that one simply because it said problematic. So I see what you're saying.
Yeah, I like, I'm not reacting to the concept of consent. I'm reacting to the heavy-handedness, like the
pro-consent
political
podcast.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, whenever I hear somebody say, like, oh, we have such a rich diversity of blah blah blah, I'm like, right off the bat, diversity. I'm like, oh god, okay, what do you mean by diversity?
Sure. Yes.
Like,
yeah.
But I mean, it's just the fact that this film uses a few terms related to that. I'm not saying like it, it's necessarily. It's. My point is, this movie is not trying to like lecture you on
not
any
at all.
specific
this
thing.
Movie, yeah. So let me give some background details real quick. So I gave when it came out. It's directed by J.T. Molnar and written by J.T. Molnar, who I have a list on my phone of like directors to follow. And again, these all obviously aren't like the big name ones. These are like guys like Shed Selection ones, directors that they have like one notable movie, and I want to see what else they come out with. So I put him on that list basically. I only have like 3 or 4 people on that right now. That it stars Willa Fitzgerald as just she's just called the lady in the cast. The lady, and then Kyle Gallner as the demon. They both look like actors I recognize, but then I like don't really know them. Kyle Gallner looks a lot, at least to me, and in this movie, he reminds me a lot of Paul Mescal. And Willa Fitzgerald, I still haven't nailed down who she looks like, but they look really familiar, but I don't think I'm very familiar with their work. I think they're both bigger, and actually Kyle Gallner he isn't Smile, right? So I did see that, and I think you did also. Madison Beatty is in it. Bianca Santos, Stephen Michael Quezada, I recognize him. Ed Begley Jr., I recognized him. But this is and Giovanni Ribisi, who I always loved. Actually, he was kind of like my dark horse actors. He's in it as a voice, but he does the I think the cinematography, if I'm not mistaken. That's something I want to talk about. This movie shot on 35 millimeter. Yeah. So and I'm like, wait, Giovanni Ribisi. So I guess, and what's funny is he actually plays like a photographer in Lost in Translation, if you remember. A movie I actually don't like all that much, but I thought that was kind of funny. Maybe he was trying to evoke something there. Manifest something. So this movie shot on 35 millimeter film. This movie looks fantastic. Like, to me, it looks like a Tarantino movie. Maybe that's also because of the subject matter. It's a bloody movie. It's violent. It's sexual.
Also, the story structure of it too. It's non-linear, so it's got a Pulp Fiction vibe to it too.
Right, and I think a worse movie would be described as derivative of a Tarantino movie. I think like this is, if we love Tarantino, and there's going to be other movies that are quality of, inspired by, like, that's what art is. Like that's why you have waves of different styles. Like Cubism wasn't just Picasso; it was other people did Cubism too. Miro did Cubism. In fact, I think he actually invented it.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm. But now, of course, there's always a bunch of cheap knockoffs. But this is not one of them. So if you like Tarantino, I think you'll enjoy this movie. And like you said, the structure is non-linear. One of my that is the first thing that I maybe was like, is that hurting the movie? I still don't know. I think maybe if this was told linearly, it would be better, but I might be wrong about that. I honestly don't know. I do remember thinking, like, after watching the movie, how much I really loved it. I was like, I think it actually could have been better if it wasn't shown in this way. I don't know how you feel about that.
Yeah, the overall, I liked the structure. I liked the fact that it kind of jerked me around so much. Like at first, it was jarring, but I think it was also, it made me go, "Oh, she's the bad guy. Wait, no, he's the bad guy. Wait, no, she's the bad guy. Wait, no, hold on, he's the bad guy."
Yeah.
I think that would be a really difficult thing to pull off linearly. And even then, like, we're bringing up the sort of Tarantino Pulp Fiction comparison, but at the same time, it still didn't feel like, oh, he clearly watched Pulp Fiction and he's just ripping that off. It's still like,
I don't even get really more. Well. I'm getting more like Death Proof vibes. I thought maybe that's because like the muscle car, there's at least like one muscle car. Just like the grittiness, it's shorter, like it's only 96 minutes.
Yeah.
So and the limited amount of characters. Like I'm a defender of Death Proof. I think more than probably Tarantino himself. Like I actually really enjoy that movie.
Yeah, he seems to. I haven't seen it, but he seems to really be like, yeah, the world hates it, and I don't blame them.
So, like... Yeah, I don't get it. I actually think, but then again, when I look at my scores, I think it is maybe my lowest score. That's just how much I love Tarantino movies. So he's just fantastic. But anyway, so I don't know. It could be like if it was told, linearly, start to finish, not disjointed, it definitely wouldn't have as many like the whiplash effects. There would be less of the like, oh shit moments, but it might lend itself to like one more big moment. And maybe that's a trade-off in storytelling. I don't know. Once you show a movie like this, and I think, I don't know, should we try and refrain from spoilers or not? Like, this isn't a new movie, but I also feel like it's not a movie a lot of people have seen.
Yeah, let's just give like the basic premise of it.
Okay. And then, I think we can do that. I think we can tell. But then I don't know how much we can go into being an anti-MeToo movie. Maybe we'll do our best, and then we can say like, hey, if you really don't want this movie spoiled, stop here and then come back. All right. So I kind of forgot what I was saying right before that, but it's a limited cast of characters. It's only a couple of locations for the most part. And it centers on really the lady and the demon, the two, Willa Fitzgerald and Kyle Gallner, and it seems like they meet. And again, I don't even remember the exact order that this is told in, so I'm not even going to say. I know I have it here on the Wikipedia page, but I think I got the feeling like they met on like a dating app or something, or somehow, and they're having like a not even a first date, just like a hookup in a motel.
Yeah.
And they're like, she's very much into rough sex, and he seems more apprehensive. And then you see some sides of him. But man, this is gonna be really hard to talk about without spoiling it.
Well, yeah, I mean it. No, it's true. Yeah.
So look, this isn't a very long movie. I think it's pretty accessible. I forget where I watched it, but you watched it. Also, like I don't think we can really talk about it So stop here if you don't want this movie spoiled,
Right.
because then it's not going to be a very interesting podcast. And this is our only topic for today. And then come back and hear us talk about it. So stop now.
Yeah.
3, 2, 1. Okay. So yeah, they're like hooking up, and she's into like really freaky, hardcore stuff.
Yeah.
And you see some like the side of him that what the director does is, I think, like you said, I mean, in real life too, by the way, like the vast majority of sexual offenders and violent criminals are men. Like the director knows that. We know that. There's a truth to Me Too, by the way. Like Me Too wasn't all fake. There was truth to it. There are bad actors out there who abuse and harm women. Absolutely. It's the other side of it where it becomes more of a witch hunt and things get conflated with other things, bad things with not so bad things. And anyway, so like you have that going into this movie, especially because before this, he's chasing her through the woods, shooting out her tire, shooting out her windshield, chasing her through the woods with a rifle, and she's this skinny blonde, trying to save. So you think right away, I know this story, right?
Yeah.
Like
it comes off like the end of a slasher movie. She's the final girl.
Sure.
He's the sleazy, killer through the woods in an
he has a
isolated
mustache.
area. Yeah.
And this is in, I think, like rural Oregon, I believe.
Yeah.
Maybe not so rural, but everything's kind of rural in Oregon besides a few cities. And so like, oh, it's like, okay, I know what this movie's going to be. It might still be really good, but I know where it's going from here. And then it switches so many times, and it plays with your misconceptions because she seeks help from this kind of off the couple grid who seem like this really sweet couple. They're like kind of old hippies. They're eating this ridiculous breakfast. Do you remember this breakfast?
I saw that. And that sequence was really cool because it reminded me a little bit of like a Wes Anderson like style, like the way it was filmed is it's like
perverse.
Like tons of but it's also like like perfectly framed, and it's just like tons of butter, sausage, like it's just like
bacon,
the fattiest
eggs, like literally an entire stick of butter in like a not very big pan. Where
I'm doing like the low carb, keto type thing, and even I'm like, that's way too much butter. Like, I love grease and fat, but even I'm like, a whole stick of butter for one meal is crazy.
And it's like this it's like it's like a Wes Anderson, but like a perverted version where Wes Anderson would be like something, like a nice
intricate,
a nice sauce with some like a little flour on it and a little piece of like ahi tuna or something like that. No, this is like this disgusting calorie bomb of a breakfast. And these people aren't fat, by the way. They're like totally like I'd say skinny 60s, 70-year-olds playing a game. I forget what game they're playing. Maybe
they're doing like a puzzle.
They're doing a puzzle. That's right.
Scott
Baio puzzle. She finds shelter there, and then spoiler alert, even though like she fucking murders one of them in cold blood.
Yeah.
The husband. And then that is really the first like change in the movie. Now I might be going out of order here exactly, but that's one of the first like, oh shit. Like, wait a minute. And my first thought was, again, I'm not even shaking the typical plot, right?
Yeah.
Like what I think, I'm like, oh, they're both killers.
Yeah.
Like they're both, maybe, they're a Bonnie and Clyde type couple gone bad. Like she's ran away from him, but she's also a killer. And then I feel like it sinks into the sexual element for a while. Like they're in that motel room for a while, and they like never even really have sex, I don't think.
Right.
They're just like kind of dry humping and kissing, and I don't remember if there's any oral stuff necessarily. It seems more of power trips.
And that's where I think the non-linear aspect really kicks in a way that works, because like it intercuts between her being chased by this guy and you think, okay, he's the killer, she's the poor victim, right? And then it cuts to them And so it's 6 chapters plus an epilogue, but even then, like it splits up the chapters, like like the parts of the chapters in West. And then it cuts to them and like in a motel room, and he's being very rough with her, and then you think like, oh, he's the one who took it way too far. And then it cuts to them earlier in the night, and she's saying, hey, don't hold back, even if I start crying and this and that, just keep going. And they're like, oh, okay, so she wanted it to go too far. And so the fact that it keeps going back and forth, we're sort of like, oh, okay, hold on, he's the one who took it far too. No, she wants it that way, but he so that's where I think the non-linear aspect kind of helps it.
Yeah. So the demon, I hate referring to him as that. Kyle Gallner's character. Just because I hate referring to him with that, because I think it's like a purposeful mischaracterization to not spoil the movie. In the end, he's a good guy. But like he's taking the law into his own hands. I guess you could you could criticize him for that, but he gets mutilated. So it turns out, again, we're already spoiling, that the lady is really dubbed the Electric Lady. And she's a serial killer. She's like this young, hot serial killer. And one of her signatures is to carve, I guess, her name or initials or something into her victims. And this movie, and so let's start talking about why I think this is an anti-MeToo movie. One, like Gallner, if this movie had come out, let's say it was a very similar movie, but came out a few years ago, the Gallner's character would have been a shithead. Like he would have been a nasty who maybe doesn't deserve to die, of course, not death, but they would have made him a bad dude who maybe got more than he deserved from the Electric Lady, but a bad dude. But in fact, you find out he's not. He's a police officer, and he's like a totally normal guy. Like obviously he's like any guy, he's horny. He wants to hook up with this attractive girl, but there's nothing to indicate that he's some sort of villain. In fact, he says some messed up things during their quote unquote sex scene, but she's into it. She wants him to put she mocks him for not going far enough, I think, if I remember correctly, eggs him on. And like you just said, if I'm crying, even if I'm saying stop, like they have a safe word or something. And after he says kind of a sick line, I'm like, I'll cut you from your lips to your lips. And she's handcuffed during this. After he handcuffs her because he thinks he went too far, she like jumps on him and says, I've never been so turned on in my life. So again, he's like just going along with what she wants. He's not some sicko. And then she drugs him. Again, we're talking about the Me Too era when it was always the woman getting drugged. Promising Young Woman, a movie I actually really liked. I thought it was great. Like she gets drugged. It's always the woman getting drugged because that's what goes on the vast majority of the time in real life. But that was like the plot device for so long. Why these otherwise strong women would become victims is because they would be unknowingly drugged. Here, he's the one who's drugged. He's the one who gets his body mutilated. And at the last second, before she can, do the coup de grace, but with a knife in the neck, he comes to enough to whip out a gun I think he had in his ankle and shoots her ear off. Like, a centimeter or so to the left, he would have killed her, but then we wouldn't have much of a movie. That may be a short movie, but he he's the victim. And he uses self-defense to avoid like imminent death. So do you have anything you want to add there? Or should I just keep going?
Keep going.
Okay. So at this point, you've kind of learned, like she finds out he's a cop, but she doesn't stop. She doesn't run away. She's a serial killer. So he shoots her ear off. And this is when the movie, like you're kind of back at the beginning where then there's this chase, this very long chase on foot in cars. She pulls a knife on like some hotel worker, motel worker, or someone who's at the motel, and gets her kind of sweet muscle car to drive away, and he has his truck. So there you're kind of like, before you're like, oh, this is typical. This is going to be some like, it's Oregon, the neo-Nazi white supremacist type in like backwoods Oregon, in his truck shooting at her with a rifle. But no, like now you've learned what is actually the context of that chase you see when the movie first starts.
Right.
And then that's when he shoots out something where I think maybe her back windshield, and she skids off the road and runs to the woods, and then finds that couple so you're kind of brought full circle there. Eventually he finds her, and she's hiding in some sort of refrigerator or something, but like a horizontal one instead of a vertical one.
Yeah.
And I might have missed something in here, but this is where the anti-MeToo stuff really started to I think make self-apparent to me. Was he handcuffs her to the let's say the refrigerator, the freezer, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And he could just put a bullet in her head.
Yeah.
He'd be doing society a favor. Remember, she's a serial killer.
Yeah.
Instead, he calls a colleague or another police officer, or he might be a sheriff's officer. I think they might be sheriff's.
He calls for backup. Yeah.
Yeah, and to like have her arrested, like not kill her, even though she was going to kill him, not kill her. He's showing her mercy, and I forget exactly how. This seemed kind of silly to me. This is probably one of the knocks I had on it, where it's like, just fucking keep your distance from her.
Yeah.
Like whatever it is. I'm actually blanking on how she ends up killing him. Do you remember?
Yeah, did she spray him with like some of the...
that's right, the bear
spray?
Yeah, so somehow she gets the bear, right. So because when the hippie, even though they say it's a biker or whatever, when he opened the door at first to her when she was pleading with them, he had bear mace. That's like his weapon, I guess, to show that like they don't really have weapons, but like that's their weapon and live out in the country, right? So she got bear mace, and then she ended up killing him, and then framed it and like pulled down her pants because she's shackled to the freezer. She pulls down her pants, and the backup shows up, which is Quezada, that actor, but then he also shows up with a female police officer, female sheriff's officer, who Quezada is the one, like his inclination is something's off here. Yeah. Like he sees his dead buddy, Kyle Gallner's character. He sees him dead. He sees the girl. He sees the late electric lady. He doesn't know it's the electric lady at that point with her pants down. Like obviously that immediately looks like some sort of torture rape, right? But then he's like, no, something's off here. He just knows it. Yeah. But the female sheriff's officer is the one who's like, do you know what she honestly does? She does like a kind of believe all women type thing. And she's wrong. Yeah. And he's like, can't you see what's going on here? Isn't it obvious? And against his better judgment, he's like, okay, fine, like undo her. He wants to do a full crime scene, and she's like, no. And obviously, like, you can't necessarily blame her. Like, you can't blame the sheriff's officer. Right. I don't know if she's deputy or an officer. Like, yeah, anyone kind of coming on that would be like, oh my God, this was a horrific rape and she fought her way out of it. But like, no, that's actually wrong in this situation. The believe all women thing didn't work here. In fact, to keep going, it gets them all killed. Yeah. Yeah. They take the lady, she's in the back of the car, and she pulls a gun on them, explains who she is. And then I believe she does let the female officer go, right? Yeah. Or does she kill her? I can't remember. She lets her go, like run, like the female officer realized that she was wrong. They know they know who the electric lady is. Like they know that that's a person. They didn't know it was her, obviously. And then she murders Quezada, and then another. And why I said this was also a very right-wing movie is because not only these scenes. This is very much like a personal property movie, like defending your property. it's this anti-MeToo stuff, but also what's the final scene is the electric lady and she falls on the ground in the middle of the road to get someone to stop for her, and then this kind of middle-aged woman stops. She gets in her car, and the electric lady starts to pull a gun on her, and the driver, pulls out a gun first and shoots her.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, this is such a right-wing movie, like
right.
a self-defense two-way movie and then she calls the police, and again she's saying, I just shot a girl in self-defense. She pulled a gun on me. I'm going to drive to the hospital. They just put a fucking bullet in her head.
Yeah.
Like, she's clear. And then the final scene is the electric lady potentially pulling out another gun to kill this woman, but she dies.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's, a run through of the movie. What do you have anything to add there?
No. You hit all the main spoilers. No, but I was very much surprised by this because even when you texted me, you're like, hey, this is like an anti-MeToo movie. I was like, okay, all right, I'll check it out. But even then, I was still guessing as to what you meant by that.
Yeah.
So I was still like, how's this going to pan out though?
Yeah.
And so this reminded me of something that Tarantino said back in the earlier mid 90s. So right after Pulp Fiction came out, and he was talking about this concept of narrative twists and turns. And he goes, there's this misconception that twists and turns mean that there's like surprises. And I goes, I don't think that's really what that means. I think what it means that a movie unfolds, which is, an incident happens, and then the movie takes a different direction based on that incident. Where it's like, like there's a sort of organic development of a narrative, whereas like we just think, oh, this movie has a lot of twists and turns, but you can do that in a very artificial way though. Where it's just done for its own sake. Whereas I think this film adheres to Tarantino's definition of a movie with twists and turns, where it's like it's unfolding. You don't know exactly what's going to happen with each.
Yeah, it's never this movie's never boring. Yeah. It's I think 96 minutes. And again, like I don't like overly political movies on either side. Like I don't like overtly right-wing movies either. I think they're boring.
Even if you agree with the movie, you still go, but I didn't need to have my views reinforced from this.
Or and it's also like it's usually done in a preachy moral, when it's right wing, it's usually very moralistic, really preachy, lack of substance way. So this movie again has a police officer as a good guy. Believe it or not, like I know that like a lot that's all like usually now there's still good police officer movies, but if this movie came out earlier, he would have been a scumbag. Like he would have been a scum. Maybe they both would have been scumbags to make it a little more gray, but he would have been like, he's not, he's a good guy. That's evident in how he acts with her. And also you could tell by, if the Quezada's character came up and was like, oh, he's he won too many times, or he did it again, or just one time, like he knew he was a scumbag, they would have shown that like, no, it's actually his dead corpse and his buddy's reaction that shows like something's off here. He wouldn't do this. He wouldn't do this kind of thing. It's clearly a pro gun, a pro 2A movie, because the people who let the stranger into their home, are murdered because they don't have a weapon. The woman at the end stops the serial killer because she's concealed carry. And then obviously the believe all women thing, which is just incorrect here. It actually gets her partner killed. So it's like, it's not all, again, it's like, if this was a different movie, even if it's going to be more morally gray, right? Came out a few years ago. Like maybe they would have let Quezada live. Maybe they would have at least had the female officer whose fault it is die. But no, it's like she also said live with the guilt. That's because of her overriding. And you can kind of tell in the movie, it's like, I think he's supposed to be the more senior officer there.
Right. Yeah.
He is older, like noticeably older, but I think that's what I got. Like he's supposed to be a more senior officer than the redhead, who I don't know her name. So Pete and is it Genevieve?
I thought Genevieve was the hippie lady. Yeah, it was Barbara History.
Yeah, I don't know who. Like they're using names here, but I don't
Tanya,
know.
or was it Gail?
No, Tanya was the one who stole the car from. Who's Beth? I don't know. But Gail. Who's Gail? Oh yeah, it would be Gail then. Yeah, I'm just going off the redhead. So like I think she's supposed to be noticeably younger than Pete. And you know all those things, like she's like this alone, the serial killer, not just a serial killer. It's not like, oh, it was a serial killer who, and the last part I almost left this out. Oh, I left out a big part of the movie, by the way. Why she does this. So again, if this movie came out a few years ago, they would have made her a more sympathetic serial killer, if that's a thing. Like she like a Dexter type. Like she only kills creeps, rapists, right? That was a movie, I forgot what it was, where it was Olivia Wilde, I think she directed it and starred in it, if I remember correctly, where she like helps women get out of abusive relationships. And I think she also fights the men. I'm not remembering that exactly, because she came from an abusive relationship. I remember that much. You know, that's not what's going on here. There's no indication at all that she was, at least not that I remember, that she was sexually abused, that she was a victim of childhood abuse. That, you know, there's no flashbacks. There's nothing like that. You know why she kills? It's because she's mentally ill. She sees demons. That's why. And I wanted to leave that part until I got to it. Kyle Gallner's character's name is the demon because she sees demons. So it's kind of like what's that movie that we watched where the family kills, like sees demons.
Oh, Frailty?
Yeah, Frailty. It kind of has like an element of frailty to it.
Yeah.
Where she's just,
which we should cover on this.
I thought we did.
I brought it up under like psychological, like when we did like psychological horror. But I don't think we've ever devoted a shed.
I thought we did a whole episode on it. No, I might be wrong. I really thought we did.
I brought it up a few times, but I don't think we've done a full episode.
I thought that's why I went and watched it so we could discuss it. I might be wrong. Let's check the Shed Selection.
Yeah, we'll check.
I'm pretty sure we did a whole episode on it, but I could be wrong. You might be right. And because it has come up a lot. So regardless, so she sees demons, and one thing I do wish, maybe this was a budget thing, like I wish they showed a little bit more of that. There's maybe one extremely quick cutscene. I'm talking like Brad Pitt's dick in Fight Club quick cutscene. That's the movie, right? Where they like flash his dick real quick.
I think so.
Yeah, I think that's it. Well,
are you talking like Ben Affleck and Gone Girl?
Ben Affleck and Gone Girl. What about it?
Is that the movie you're thinking of, where it's like a
no?
Quick...
There's a movie that's a famously quick cut of. I'm 99% sure it's Brad Pitt and Fight Club, where it's like you don't even know you just saw it so quick. And there's at least one of those with the demon, and I think maybe one that's a little fraction of a second longer, maybe. Yeah. But I wish there was more of that. Not to necessarily make her more sympathetic, just I think that would have added a cool element to it. Yeah. Because if you're gonna be like, well, this is why she kills because she's mentally ill, like show us some more of that. Right. Or don't have it at all is how I kind of feel. But maybe that was a budgetary thing. Yeah. Because this movie is this isn't like a horror in that sense. This isn't like any sort of monster horror. But anyway, I don't know. I thought this movie was really fresh. It was like, I love the cut scenes where it had the, like, was it red, right? Like red with white writing. Very Tarantino-esque, which again, tons of people have tried to do. And the ones that succeed, well, that's a good thing because we love those types of movies. Yeah. I highly recommend it. I don't know exactly what I'll give it yet, but definitely like in the, I think, low 90s, 5-star movie.
I thoroughly enjoyed this one.
Yeah, right. Like
And,
it was.
and yeah, I am surprised, like you. I am surprised that this didn't get at least some kind of buzz. Like, it's one thing where if
Yeah,
a film is independently released, but even then, I mean, because like we've covered movies that were released independently, but maybe got some, some awards buzz, or like were big hits on the festival circuit, or kind of made like a
yeah,
splash, and certain. But this one is like, I just, when you text me about this, I was like, I have no idea what this film's about.
yeah.
Like, what, like I haven't even heard about this movie. So how did you hear
Yeah.
about it?
I think so. A lot of times on my TV, I will just go to I use Xfinity, so I'll just like go look at like new releases,
Sure.
and I'll just add stuff that sounds good there. It's like, oh, what's from this year? I'll add it,
Yeah.
and or I might have seen this actually. Believe it or not, I might have seen it at the library in the new releases, where I'm like, oh, that my threshold for watching new movies is really low. So it's not like I just like to watch as much as possible from the current year to get a feel for the year movies wise. It makes me feel good. Shut up. So
Sure.
I probably, and then I'll go. So I'll add stuff to my list, and then I'll just go be like, okay, what's free? It says free to me, right? So maybe it's on Hulu, maybe it's Netflix, maybe it's Paramount Plus, whatever. And that came up. I'm like, oh, well, you know what? Like it's not brand new, but I just watched some new stuff. Like, let's throw this on. And sometimes that's like it's movies like Strange Darling, which is why I love doing it the way that I do. Will I watch a lot of bad movies that way? Sure. I'll watch a lot of just like okay to fine to serviceable movies. But then when you get one like this, like it's not, no one talks about. I didn't hear anyone talk about this movie.
Yeah.
I didn't see anyone tweet about it. I listened to movie podcasts. I mean, one of them, I went back to one of the movie podcasts I listened to that's like the current movies, and they have like a few seconds on it, and that's it. Like they didn't do a review on it. They said how much they liked it, but it's like, so I listen to 2 movie podcasts regularly. One does like long form single movies they do a theme, so it could be any movies. And then one is like, here's movie news, here's reviews of new stuff, here's an old movie we want to talk about. So I get a good cross section there. And there's none of that. So it was just total. And then especially once the movie year's over, so this is a 2024 movie, I'll usually put that stuff on the back burner if I didn't get to it, unless I really, really want to see. Like I haven't seen The Brutalist yet, and that's also free. I could go watch that, but now that the movie year's over, I'm kind of into other stuff or stuff that's been on my list for a while, and that's just kind of the way I operate. So when I do strike gold like this, I find like a 5-star movie out of nowhere. I'm sitting there just like my wife's sleeping. I want to like wake her up to tell her how good this movie is.
Yeah.
And that's why I texted you. I'm like, dude, this movie's great. And that's why I tweet it and I share it, because I think that's what's really fun about, people who watch movies all the time and aren't just doing like a handful of the big names each year. And I know some people, they don't have time for, I get it, but that's like, this is what I do. And that's why it's so exciting. Like I find this like exciting to find a movie that I can share with people that they probably haven't seen.
So a couple of interesting points about this movie. So it opens up with the Miramax logo.
Yeah.
I mean, do you know who founded Miramax?
Was it
Harvey the Weinstein brothers?
They founded Miramax.
Yeah, they're the founders of Miramax.
Wow.
In fact, I didn't even know that company was still around, because I thought that they founded the company decades ago, and then they were pretty big in the 90s because of like Pulp Fiction and a lot of Tarantino's films. And I think even some Robert Rodriguez movies were sort of like, like we're the ones who kind of see like the diamonds in the rough. We're the ones who are kind of like seeing this emerging talent and pushing it forward. But then the Weinstein brothers, I thought Miramax shut down or closed. And then they became the Weinstein Company.
Oh, okay. I thought the Weinstein Company closed.
I mean, I think they did eventually because of all that stuff, but I thought Miramax shut down like in the 90s and then turned into the Weinstein. But so I was like, oh, interesting. So is that like your way of saying like, just to kind of add fuel to the anti-MeToo thing? Is that like sort of like
I don't know. I think they probably struck gold because that's the production company. So this isn't an indie movie,
right?
This is, but it also isn't a big. It's a pretty $4 to $10 million budget. That's not that much,
right?
And it retrieved 4.8 million at the box office. So, dude, explain this to me. So it says Strange Darling was shot on location in Oregon in 2022 on 35 millimeter film by Giovanni Ribisi, marking his debut as the cinematographer. Is that not the director's job?
So cinematographer can so from what I understand, the director will tell the cinematographer, also known as the DP or the director of photography, will tell the DP. So here's what I'm thinking, but like it's also the DP to say, well, we should also get a shot of this because for editing. So we should also get like an insert shot. We should get a shot of the two characters. Blah blah blah. So like it is very good to have an experienced DP who understands, because I mean like a director can get very artsy, can be like, oh, like I want this beautiful shot and this and that, and I want these are the sequence of shots that I want for this scene. But then a DP can be like, okay, but we need some connective tissue. So there's some basic cinematic language that we need in order for this scene to work. And also like a director can be like, I want it with this type of lighting, and the DP will like, okay, but that's going to look like shit. Like it might look good in your mind, but when you look through the lens, it's not going to look really well. So you need so it's kind of like part of the job of the DP is to translate what the director has in mind into film, and just kind of like be very practical about like, okay, we can do that, but it's going to be very time consuming, or that's just not possible. So you have to be able to light some things but put some things in shadow, or else it's going to look like shit. So that's kind of like a very brief summary of what a DP does. But even then, I mean, like I've heard stories of like where the DP is doing a lot of the directing because the director just doesn't know what the fuck they're doing.
Okay.
So have you ever seen Reanimator, like the original, like the very first one from 1985?
No, I have not.
So the director of that one, Stuart Gordon, he'd done a lot of theater, and he'd done one television movie, but even then it was filmed like a play. But there were a lot of shots in that movie where he would tell the DP, okay, I want a shot this way, but the DP would be like, okay, we can shoot it that way, but your editor is going to hate you. So it's just like, this is not a play. Okay, we have to shoot it like a film. Yeah. So there are distinct languages, language differences between the two mediums. But yeah, the cinematography thing was interesting because like you said, the film looks great. I don't know if I would have, as much as I pride myself on being like a film guy, at the same time, it's like I do have to acknowledge that digital is getting better and better. And some movies are to the point where I'm like, oh, this was shot on. So for example, one of my favorite films, which we've covered on here, is Under the Silver Lake. I thought that movie had such a great look. I was like, oh, this had to have been shot on film. It was shot digitally, but it was shot in a way that made it look like it was shot on film. This film was actually shot on 35 millimeter film. So like a classic format. What's interesting is that they put it at the beginning of the movie. It's like during the credits, it says shot on 35 millimeter. And so that got me thinking, I was like, is that sort of like, when you buy, a product and it says made in the US or made in the USA, it's like, is that going to be like the new thing going forward?
I think so. I think that's why they did it. It's like, we went in, because my understanding is much more difficult to shoot on film than digitally. So like we went out of our way to do this. Pay attention, notice this. And to me, like this movie earned that. Like this movie looks great. And then I'm like, and that makes me want to go and watch other movies that are shot on 35 millimeter film. And it's not the first time I've ever seen that term, or I've ever watched, like, I know that, like I've looked at movies before. They might not say it in the beginning, but I really enjoyed it. I'm like, that looked really good. And then I'm like, oh, well, that makes sense. So when it told me that, it did get me to like sink in a little more. I was like, oh, okay. Like, nice. Even if it sucks, it's probably going to look good. So I thought that was very cool.
Yeah, I wonder if we're going to get to a point where we're going to start seeing that type of label. Not just that, but like maybe like shot without AI.
So like, yeah, I'm sure at some point, probably much later, that will be a thing. But I do think, like, because it's getting so much rarer to shoot on film. Yeah, it's going to be more of like an artistic choice,
Yeah.
which means it's going to be a certain amount of effort involved. And I'm all for that. I'm all for like putting out there that you did this more old school way.
Yeah.
I think that's great.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I also wonder though if that starts turning into something that's sought after just for its own sake. So for example, like with like the hipster obsession with vinyl, like just because something's on vinyl doesn't mean it's good.
I see what you're saying.
And it's entirely possible to shoot something on 35 millimeter that looks bland and
Right.
digital, and it's entirely possible to shoot something digitally that looks very damn good. Where but like overall, I'm definitely in favor of like, let's shoot with like with a format that captures the vividness of colors, and like the full spectrum of light and shadow, that digital still hasn't quite, it's getting there, but hasn't quite fully captured yet. But I'm all, at the same time, if the story is crap, I'm still gonna be like, yeah, just because this is shot,
Oh yeah, of course.
I'm not gonna give it extra credit just because it was shot with a 19th century format. But at the same time though, like because technically shooting on film is still more expensive than shooting digitally. I hope that people who shoot filmmakers who shoot with film are like, hey, this is a story that I put a lot of effort into. I want every aspect of it.
They're not going to mail it in. Yeah, they're
exactly.
not going to mail it in. And well, that's a good point. And another reason why I love this movie was because, like you said, it's more expensive. And in the end, this is a business. Yeah. Right? Yeah. It's more expensive to do this. There are no big names in this movie.
Right.
There are no IPs in this movie. This isn't some sequel. This isn't a spin-off.
Yeah.
This is an original work by a no-name director. I've never heard of this guy. I watch 150 movies a year. I've never heard of him. I think maybe I recognize one or two things, but like, and this was apparently not some like lucky indie film that caught fire. This was a Miramax produced film, right? And again, I know like production, all that, sometimes there's distribution and production, and a movie can be indie, but then it's distributed. Like that's the whole thing with A24. People are like, oh, A24 movies are always so good. It's like, well, actually, there are A24 distributed movies, and then there are A24 original movies.
Yes,
and there's that's all different. There's different stuff. It's not all that simple. But this was a Miramax movie, shot on film, more expensive, more tedious. It went in a arena that is all about time and money. Like this breaks the equation. It's not no-name actors. I know that they've been in stuff there. I think they do some good TV, like more popular TV things, but no-name in the sense of like a 96-minute movie leads. And a movie that's, to use an old term, politically incorrect in so many ways, which I don't know if that was all intentional. It kind of feels hard for it not to be all of those points, but again, something that was not overtly political in the other direction either, which was just so standard for so many years that you could predict, usually, almost always, where this movie was going to go, who was going to be the victim, who was going to be the villain, with maybe some deviations here and there.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I'm even hesitant to say that the movie was politically incorrect or right wing, because I feel like the movie was just overall, I don't want to say realistic necessarily, but at the same time, it's like one of the annoying things about the Me Too movement, and like you said, like the Me Too movement did a lot of good. Like, it absolutely pointed out there are a lot of powerful men who abuse their power, and especially in the entertainment industry. At the same time, it's like there's still a lot of stories of guys who slept with the wrong woman. Who got fucked over. So it's like,
or it was
and that's always been the case. That's
retrospective.
And that's always been the case. Like there've been, I've always heard stories of like, she seemed cool and we hooked up, and then she ended up being a psycho and she fucked up my life. Like that's been around for fucking ever. That's been around through history.
So the femme fatale.
Exactly. Yeah. So I mean, and this isn't a gender thing. It's like, yeah, people fuck each other. People use sex to fuck each other over. So I'm not saying that this is, like a gender thing. So for me, it's like, like to divorcing, the commentary on the current climate of things. I can watch this and be like, yeah, sometimes a guy hooks up with the wrong
Yeah.
chick, and like a horror thriller, it goes to extremes. So and for the entertainment value. But at the same time, if it was flipped, I would still be like, yeah, I mean, sometimes a
Sure.
woman hooks up with the wrong guy too. Like that shit
Of
happens
course,
too.
of course. But I do think when you see that, there's always like lists. I feel like of certainly like whatever it is, political movie. Like I think if you made a list of like I would personally put this on a list of right-wing movies.
Sure.
And I would say why for these reasons. Now, all the parties involved, did they think that? They go and no, I think that's different than other. Again, and I think this is why this is such a good movie.
Yeah.
It's not, hey, we're gonna go make a right-wing movie.
Right.
It's or we're gonna go make a left-wing movie. We're gonna go make a movie about this. It's like, no, here's our story. This is what happens.
Yeah.
These are the elements of it. And in the climate that it comes out, right, the climate that it is released, do the people who view it, do those reflect kind of a certain right-wing or left-wing, cultural values or whatever it is?
Right.
And that's why I think that this would be categorized as and should be categorized as a right-wing movie.
Have you ever seen I Spit on Your Grave? The original from like the late 70s?
I know that's like a really fucked up movie, right?
Yeah, I've seen it. It's
I think I've purposefully not seen it because
it's not that graphic compared to modern movies, but at the same time, because it's shot in such a gritty way, if like it feels like watching the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, where it's not that graphic or gory, but it's such a grimy, gross movie.
So it's so gross.
Yeah, you just feel gross.
I love it, but it's so gross.
Yeah, no, it definitely. And I Spit in Your Grave is a similar style movie.
Okay.
It like I said, it's not that graphic, but it's pretty gross. But here's the thing: like the movie, the female, she's been gang raped. Several times, I think. I think twice in the movie, and then she gets like a year later or something. She gets revenge on all these guys. But here's the thing: when I'm watching that movie, I'm rooting for her. Like,
yeah, of course.
So and but like this movie kind of had a little bit of that vibe. But I liked how it wasn't like a straight up. So, for example, like when Grindhouse came out, then you had a lot of similar styled movies. But like, what I didn't like about a lot of that style at the time was that like it was too heavy-handed, where it's like, hey, look, it's gross and it's grimy, hey, just like those movies from the 70s. Whereas this, I thought like it kind of like nodded to that era.
You're talking about Strange Darling?
Yeah, Strange Darling.
Yeah,
like I thought this film did a good job of like nodding to that like exploitation era of film, but also was still able to kind of like use it and like update it and like like subvert it in a way that made sense. Without being too like simplistic in its tribute to kind of gross grindhouse cinema.
Yeah, this is one of those movies I would really like to go like listen to the director or something. Like this movie's really piqued my interest, and in that regard, like what? Okay, so what? This is what I got away from it. Took away from it. What was the director like? Because he wrote it also.
Yeah.
So I'm very interested in where he was coming at from, because he might have just put together an entertaining movie and I'm just what's the term?
Like projecting.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just projecting this onto it, which is kind of like what good art allows for.
Yeah.
So yeah, I highly recommend this movie. And that's, I don't think I have anything else to share about it. Do you?
No.
All right.
There was a shot at the beginning of the film that was a single take, and it was the demon character walking through the house with the rifle.
Yeah.
It was cool, and what I liked about it was that nowadays too many movies will use the single take technique to call attention to itself. And on the one hand, I can appreciate the artistry and the complexity and the forethought required to pull off a long shot. but at the same time, sometimes like it calls attention to itself, and also it feels a little too curated. It feels a little too like, okay, when the camera's here, that's when the two characters interact with each other, and then when the camera moves here, that's when the guy falls off the stairs, and then whereas it feels a little too forced sometimes. Whereas this film, I thought, did it really organically. I think when you see a single shot take, and you don't realize it until somebody points it out to you, I think that's when it's done well. I think, for example, Scorsese's famous like Goodfellas thing where like you're going through the back entrance of the club.
Yeah,
that felt completely natural. Like all the workers that Henry Hill's interacting with, I felt like, oh yeah, like he's just interrupting what they're doing. It never felt to me like, oh, that's when the janitor comes in. Oh, that's when the cook comes in. That's when it was done so seamlessly. Whereas a lot of films, I think, especially today, where like that are made by like the sort of film school nerd, where like, oh, I want my single shot, my single take shot to have all these crazy things going on. I'm like, yeah, but it feels forced now, and it's like now you're calling attention to it. Whereas I thought this was done really naturally. In a way, I don't think it was that long. Maybe it was probably about a minute or so long. But,
I don't remember. I can't even really recall it and being like, because usually I love a long take.
Yeah.
Famously, the Children of Men long take is like, that's my favorite movie, and this is one of my favorite shots.
Yeah,
but I don't even really like. I remember the scene you're talking about, but I don't recall it even being a long take.
Well, if you watch it again, it's him going through the house with the rifle, and he's shooting various things because is she hiding under the bed? Is she hiding? And he's shooting stuff, but it's done so naturally. It doesn't feel like it's calling attention to itself. And I was watching, I was like, oh, they did that in one take. That was done really well. That looked good. Like, it didn't feel like it was a film school nerd saying, "Hey, watch this long take that I'm doing right now." So I thought the film was very well crafted in that regard too. Because I mean, like, well, that's the thing with when you're shooting on film, because like a film canister only goes up to like about 10 minutes, just under 10 minutes. So when you're doing a long take, it's like you want to make sure that you do it well. So, yeah, man. So good pick.
Thank you. So all right, to wrap it up, our new kind of standing date for recording now is going to be Tuesdays. That doesn't mean we'll always record on Tuesdays, but that's going to be, so we get them out early. We get the episodes out earlier in the week instead of closer to the weekend. Again, we might record on a Saturday, we might record on a Thursday. We don't know, but now it's going to regularly be Tuesdays. And also,
that means checking Wednesday morning is
So they'll be out. They should be out Wednesdays. And if you please follow, like, subscribe. If you have any topics you want us to ever discuss, or just a question, we'll address on the pod. Topics, movies, politics, whatever. We're at episode 177 by now. You know what we tend to talk about. Let us know, DM, reply, whatever. If you're up for it, sign up for the Patreon. We have different tiers, all with merch, as low as $3 a month. And all of our links, social media links, will be in the show notes. I have a new trading card game I've talked about a few episodes back.
What's it called?
Scepter. Yeah, Scepter, a Middle Ages themed trading card game. If you have any questions about it, just reach out to me for that personally.
Because I'll probably just fuck it up and give you wrong information and shit.
Right.
Potentially.
So we have booster packs and 4 unique starter decks right now. I say weeks. I have a partner in that. I'm a co-creator. And anything else, Joe, to add?
No, I think that's it, man.
All right. And then stay reckless.
Yep. Yeah.